And then ESPN would have Sunday Night Baseball. But the All-Star Game was awesome because it was like, hey, there's Mark McGwire. There's Barry Bonds. There's Ken Griffey Jr. There's Randy Johnson. There's all the guys. There's Frank Thomas and the whole All-Star. Well, now you can't have something awesome happen in baseball or football or basketball or anything without it popping up on your phone. Heck, Brendan's even got alerts. Something awesome happens with the team that he likes. I'm sure that's what your phone does. I don't know what. Your phone chirps. You don't need an All-Star Game the way we needed it. Well, first off, the way we needed it back when it was first created, which was kind of a spectacle. Hey, here's all the best players in the same game. Then when TV came in, it was a perfect made-for-TV event. Middle of the summer, not much is going on. They call it the Midsummer Classic. American League versus National League. These guys, because when I was a kid and Roger Clemens pitched in the American League, you never got to see him pitch against National League hitters. Roger Clemens is going to pitch against Will Clark? What is going on here? And it was the coolest thing ever. Well, between cable TV, the internet, interleague play, more and more player movement, the All-Star Game doesn't even really need to happen. This is the same thing with the NBA, right? Because the NBA, for different reasons, but some the same. It's still cable TV. It's still the internet. It's still all the other modern marvels that our phones have all the highlights up. But also the same thing with the NBA, which was like, hey, can you imagine Michael Jordan and Patrick Ewing on the same team? Oh, well, they do in the All-Star Game. Well, now they just make super teams, and they all play together anyways. I just want to make my own All-Star team. How much longer do we have All-Star Games? Because the NFL kind of has set the trend, which was like, yeah, the Pro Bowl's not worth it. It used to be, but now it's not. It wasn't cost effective. It wasn't making us money. Nobody's watching it on TV. We play the Super Bowl. After that, let's play some flag football the week before. We'll get some kids there in Vegas. We'll throw them in an arena. We'll go inside the dome. You make the Pro Bowl, free trip to Vegas, come play a little flag football, sign some autographs for some kids, boom, 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 call it a day. Let's not pretend it's anything more than that. And the NFL wised up, which, not surprising, that's why the NFL is the best professional league, because while it's not perfect, it took a look finally, because that was, Brenden, you might be too young for this, but like that was the hot take. Like, if we could chart out the calendar, the sports calendar will create ebbs and flows, peaks and valleys. And the hottest takes, February, big month. Not much going on. Football's over. March Madness hasn't hit yet. The NBA is in its kind of holding pattern. February, sports radio, big time for hot takes. And one of the biggest was always, why are we doing the Pro Bowl? Well, nobody cares about the Pro Bowl. Why are we doing the Pro Bowl? Well, finally it worked, and the NFL said, yeah, let's not do the Pro Bowl. Let's just end it. These guys don't want to be here. The fans don't want this. Now, it seems as though Major League Baseball's All-Star Game still has that spectacle feel. I'm watching the game, highlights of the game because I was flying in the air. But I was watching highlights of the game. There's still butts in seats there. There's still people wanting to go to the event. So I think as long as you can make a buck, I think as long as you can sell a ticket, and I can't imagine that ticket was very cheap. But as long as you can get butts in seats and people are still going to go to the spectacle. It's still going to happen. But I'm looking ahead, and I just see like TV ratings. Sports is going to, like, let's look at the NBA. The NBA, I think if they are smart, which I would assume Adam Silver's a pretty smart guy, but the NBA, if they were smart, I think should take on the college football model. What is the college football model? Well, that is basically every big-time game you can, unless it was in the Pac-12, but every big-time game you're going to be able to watch as a fan, right? I talk about that all the time. College football secret sauce. If not even a big-time game, but if it is a Power now 4 conference game being played anywhere in America on a Saturday, you can probably find it on TV somewhere. Probably on your streaming or on your YouTube TV, your what's the other one? Fubo? Hulu. You could probably find it. The NFL's they've got the monopoly on the Sunday ticket, which, by the way, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But college football has always, I thought, kind of had their own in, much like us here in the medium of radio. It's available. It's there. You don't have to try very hard to find it. And the more and more sports move to the internet, the easier and easier it's going to be to find. Plus, highlights are everywhere. We don't need an All-Star game to see LeBron James dunk. That used to be the appeal. That was it. Hey, Michael Jordan and Clyde Drexler, we might see some awesome alley-oops. It's like, now we see it every single night. And if you miss it, you don't have to watch SportsCenter. It's going to pop right up to your phone. It's going to pop right up to your phone. Hey, what happened in the... Oh, there it is. Oh, that's an awesome dunk. Didn't miss much. Boom. Moving on. Moving forward. And the more that sports move to the internet, the easier it's going to be to watch night in and night out. The more highlights you're going to get. And guess what? The less and less and less the appeal of an all-star game is going to be. I think the NBA is probably going to be the first league to do away with it. They'll still do something, right? They'll still call it an because players still have all-star clauses in their contract. We still refer to as a 14-time all-star, right? It's all that stuff. That's still there, but the game itself, it's unnecessary. NFL did away with it. I think the NBA is going to be next, and down the line, don't be surprised, especially with the money that they are paying these pitchers. Like, we've heard it with certain owners. Like, I don't want my players playing in the Olympics because I'm paying them. The more we pay these players, I was like, I don't want Paul Skeens pitching one time in an all-star game for what they're ultimately going to have to pay that guy. And Paul Skeens isn't going to get paid by the Pirates, by the way.
He's going to make so much money. He'd be a great Yankee.
Or Dodger, or Red Sox.
Yeah, take your pick. Won't be a Pirate, though.
But coming up next, we have got Royal Troon and the Open Championship. Could there be a fun British Open version of American sports? I'll tell you what I mean next. 620 Rip City Radio. I don't know if everybody was like me and my friends who would have these conversations, but when I would go golfing with my buddies on my course back home, shout out Stewart Park, we would always have the conversation of what do you think like the pros would shoot here? It was actually a TV idea that I had. Never really got anything beyond saying it on the radio. Of like, I always thought it would be. I thought it would be really cool to take like 4 pros and take them to like municipal courses, and just like what. Because me and my friends, we would play Stewart Park. It's a 9-hole course down in Roseburg. Shout out to Stewie. And and it had a couple, one weird like curly Q hole, and like, and it was a fine course, but it wasn't exactly proper conditions in terms of grass. There were a lot of geese everywhere, and geese leaving geese stuff, if you know what I mean, right? And so we would go out, we would play Stewart Park as a 9-hole course, and then inevitably the conversation would come up. Be like, what do you think Tiger Woods would shoot here? And so then the arguments would start. Like if he played 18, would he shoot? Like, how many eagles would it? Like, could he go 20 under? And so those were always the conversations. So I was like, boy, wouldn't that be like a really cool TV show to take like pros and just put them in these situations, the golf situations that you and I golf in all the time. Now, not you snooty country clubbers. That's not who I'm talking to, okay? And if you are a snooty country clubber, can I come play with you guys? But municipal courses, city courses, ones you played on when you were a kid. I always thought, what would the pros shoot here? And we would have those conversations. Because it's completely different. There's no yardage markers, right? Now everything's on GPS. But back in the 90s, when we would go out there and I think that sprinkler head said 148, but they haven't measured it since like 1987. So still not quite sure what it is. So those would be the fun conversations we would have when we were playing golf as kids. And the reason I bring that up is I'm watching the Open Championship right now. We got Justin Thomas still in the lead. He shot a 68 today.
Justin, I just looked again. Really, Rory and Bryson are falling like a bad habit.
Are they falling? Oh no!
Like it is not good. I think there's like 3 dudes like who could be ahead of like Bryson, 3 spots from the bottom. Rory's like 5 spots above that. Tough day for those 2.
Well, and so the reason why I bring it up is because you've got this tournament, this Open Championship, which, again, is, like I said, same kind of idea. Take golfers, put them in a municipal course, take them out of what they are normally used to doing, and let's see what they do. That's what we do this weekend, which is why I always kind of like the Open. Right? Golf's majors, you've got the PGA Championship is the PGA Championship. It's on a really nice course, and it's the best golfers in the world. Let's see you can go out and make shots. Other than that, the other 3 majors, they've got some personality to them, right? The Masters is all about Augusta. It's all about the course and the fact that it's the same course every single time. The U.S. Open, it's about the test. It is set up almost like a golf obstacle course. It's golf's toughest test. And then you get the Open, which is a throwback. It's played on links courses. I believe links basically means it's by the ocean. No sprinklers on links courses. They don't, like, the only sprinkler is brought to you by the good Lord above. Right? That's how, and so you see adverse conditions sometimes, but sometimes the golfers in the Open like the adverse conditions because that means the grass will actually get watered. Sometimes when the rain doesn't come, it's like, oh, it's going to be a nice day. Well, that means we're going to be playing essentially on brown dirt. But it's always been fun to watch the best players in the world essentially play the same kind of course. Now, I realize they're longer. There's more technology to it, even though there's still no sprinklers out there. But the clubs, the yardage, the GPS, and all that stuff, and well, I don't think they're able to use GPS, but it's not exactly a true throwback, but it's as close as you're going to get to playing what the legends of the game, the inventors of the game, played in, which we don't see in any other sport. The football we see each and every Saturday and Sunday is so massively different than the football that invented the sport. And probably for good reason, because there was a lot of people getting very seriously hurt. And the safety upgrades and the equipment upgrades and the strategy of the game and everything else and the technology of the game has made it a better watch, but it is a far cry, right? You could take Y.A. Tittle and put him in today's football, and he's like, I don't know what game this is. Basketball is the same way. Yes, it's still, like you remember that scene in Hoosiers where it's like, oh, it's still a 10-foot rim and that's still a 15-foot free throw line. But that's other than the dimensions of the court, that's about it. We just lost Jerry West, and Jerry West is an unbelievable player, and Jerry West was an unbelievable executive. But you go back and you look at highlights of when Jerry West and those guys were playing back in the 60s, like, that's a completely different game. It's a completely different game than the NBA that is being played now. For good reason. Games, entertainment, everything, it all just kind of evolves. Baseball, I think, might be as close, but still. The technology and the equipment, videos, spin rates, advanced stats, scouting, the shift, all that stuff is very different than when, Ty Cobb and Babe Ruth and even we just lost Willie Mays. And even when Willie Mays played, right? Can I tell you my favorite thing about baseball back in the day that I wish they would do? They're never going to do it, but I wish they would. Back in the day, I think to save time, when you played right field, right? You're out there, you're in right field. All right, 1, 2, 3, third inning's over. You would take your glove and just kind of toss it. Just a little bit off to the side. In fair play, but still just, it's right out there. So that when you got into the dugout, you didn't have to worry about it, and you get back out to right field, and there's your glove. I wish they would still do it. They're never going to, obviously, because I'm sure a ball hit a random glove multiple times, and they're like, we're paying lots of money for that. But that's how, old-timey baseball. We talked about when Willie Mays passed. Remember, we talked about the dimensions of the Polo Grounds and how crazy the baseball stadium dimensions were. Yes, Brenden.
So, funny story with that, Justin. You can play in the Polo Grounds in the most recent edition of MLB The Show.
Okay.
And my brothers and I love playing in it because you hit a home run to left or right field 248 feet, I think, is a home run to either one of the corners.
Yep.
And I'm like, there's not a baseball stadium that's even close to that.
Not even close.
So go figure, right?
And there's not a baseball stadium that's close to dead center.
Oh, that's like 400. It was like 480 to your point.
You can't hit it out of dead center, but you can hit a weak pop fly to left.
Exactly.
And it goes out.
Yeah, so we had a challenge. We're like, we got to hit a home run to dead center Polo Grounds. Not even a video game can you do it, folks. But yeah, no, like it also brings up the question, Justin, because of that, and we asked this question, like, stadium like the Polo Grounds, how much did that help Hall of Fame careers that we don't talk about now for just home runs that went, 258 feet?
Mm-hmm. Probably.
Long time ago, different time, but unique nonetheless.
But also, like, how much, like, did it, like, help, or, like, with the crazy deep center field, like, how much did it help pitching?
Right.
Yeah.
Unique.
And it's what's fun about baseball. Like, that's why, the steroid era, everybody freaked out. It's like, oh, the numbers. Like, you guys, here's my favorite baseball stat, or my favorite baseball would-be stat of all time. I say this all the time. Right now, Brenden, you watch a baseball game, guy hits fly ball to left. It's back, it's far, it's deep, it's out of here. And it curves around the foul pole, right? What is it? It's a home run. When Babe Ruth played, now Babe Ruth hit 714 home runs. 714 home runs when Babe Ruth played. You know what they did? No, it did not exist. Foul poles. Foul poles did not exist. The rule back then was that if you hit a home run, it had to land over the fence in fair territory over the fence. What if Babe Ruth had foul poles? How many more home runs would that guy have hit if he had foul poles? Also,
probably a lot more.
How many fewer home runs would he have hit if they let black people play? So there's all sorts of skewed numbers when it comes to baseball.
Oh, totally.
And
I don't think Babe Ruth ever probably hit like a slider, right? Like there were, the pitchers.
Yeah, but he also had to hit against, spitballs,
True. So it's like kind of a little bit more of the, evens it out probably a little bit. But it's a fascinating question because I don't know if the rules and specs have changed. Like the NFL, you can kind of look back and go, not too much different game. Like, the styles have changed, but you're not like, curious about how guys would fare in different eras quite as much as in baseball.
Yeah, baseball's I really think baseball is kind of like, there's exceptions to every rule. You put Wilt Chamberlain in today's basketball, you train him up, like that guy's a physical freak of an athlete, he's going to be just fine.
I'd still hack him, put him on the free throw line.
But
yes.
In today's game, he'd be like, all right, I got to practice some free throws. I'll figure it out.
Totally,
you know what I mean?
Totally.
I firmly believe like you can take like Wilt Chamberlain, you can take a Bill Russell. You could, like these guys, like there's certain guys, but like golf is the interesting one though, right? Because now you have got Bryson DeChambeau, who of the three other majors, nobody's played better. Right, he owns the U.S. Open. What was he, top 3 in the Masters or second? No, he's second place. He was second place in the Masters, and I think he was like top 3 or top 5 in the PGA Championship. Nobody's playing better. Bryson DeChambeau is falling apart right now, and
I'm not happy about it, Justin.
And it's because, well, I don't know what it's because. I haven't watched him play. He might just be having a bad day. He might just be, off his game a little bit because he was out celebrating that U.S. Open win. And
historically, this has been the course he struggled with the most of the majors. But yes, you're probably right. Still partying with that jug.
But he's got a style. And again, I could be just butchering my golf analysis right now, which is why we're going to talk to Cam Rogers in hour number 3. But he has got a style. And if you know anything about Bryson DeChambeau, what is it all about? Technology, progressive. Let's get the numbers. Let's get the. I soak the golf balls in Epsom salt so I know which ones aren't lopsided. Oh, well, guess what? Now you got to play on a cow pasture. They got to go play at a cow pasture. You got to go. Now, I'm not saying that Royal Troon is a cow pasture, but what I'm saying is it's not the perfectly manicured and lasered out so you know where all of the yardage is, and it's a throwback. And I'm wondering, like, what sport would be the most interesting other than golf? Because golf, when you get the Open Championship, it is an actual connection to the roots of the game. You don't get that anywhere else in sports, right? I love football. And I guess you could say maybe, some college football traditions, right? The 12th man at Texas A&M and some of the old stadiums and Howard's Rock at Clemson. But when you see them get onto the field, there is no real connection to the roots of the game. Everybody's running shotgun, no huddle, patty cake snap, basketball. And some people complain like basketball, it's just a 3-point contest. And I was like, it's a shooting contest. They're making shots. It's still entertaining. 3's just worth more than 2. It's just math. Don't worry about it. I, for one, like the fact that more and more 3s are being implemented. It's amazing that it took as long as it did. But it's nowhere close to the basketball that James Naismith created. Now, that also had a peach basket, and you jump balled it after every basket. And I don't even know if there was dribbling in the beginning.
I think it might have been passing only.
I think so. I think they might have brought in dribbling later. But there's no real connection to the roots of the game. Baseball kind of the same way. What if they did like the Open Championship in other sports? What would be the most interesting one where you kind of throw it back, old school roots of the game? Now I don't know if you can do it in football because somebody's going to get hurt. You know what I mean? Like you start running, and I think football might be the most boring. But could you imagine? Think about this. Maybe not in the NFL. For a time, a long time ago, believe it or not, I was a high school football coach. I was an assistant coach. Shout out to the Harrisburg Eagles. And Coach Kaiser, who was our head coach, he was obsessed with these with offenses, whether it was the fly, whether it was the single wing, whether it was the double wing, whether it was the wing T. All of these old school offenses that you had to run when you had a smaller school and you had, less options. You didn't have anybody that was good enough to play college football, so you had less options. So what'd you have to do? Precision. Wouldn't it be hilarious when you watch like those old time videos of like Army, right? And then they have like the 3-guy shift, and then everybody jumps over. Just one game. And I know they still run option and stuff, but just one game. Like the best teams in college football, it's like you got to run the wing T. Or you got to run the single wing offense and you just throw it back. Like, let's make it a bowl game, right? Can't make it a real game, but like just make it a bowl game where you're just like, all right, Florida State against Purdue. One of you gets the single wing, the other one gets the wing T. You can shift, but no motion. You can throw 3 times. We're gonna put a limit on the amount of times you can throw. And let's just see how. Like, I'm sure it'd be pretty boring football, but I don't know. I was just thinking about that watching golf. Just like, what would it be like to throw it back? Basketball. All right, for one game, maybe the All Star Game. All Star Game. No, well, they won't play defense, so it doesn't matter. But we're gonna skinny key. We're gonna go skinny key. Like George Mikan used to play with.
I mean, no 3-point line.
No 3-point line.
Interesting.
Wooden backboards. Maybe even go back to when they outlawed dunking because it hurt the rims too much.
Take away 5-second closely guarded, where you can just be Gary Payton in somebody's lunch.
Right up in there.
Yeah, just like they turned away like on ball guarding. So get rid of, and then you could
Would it be better or worse if we would old timey like the British Open in basketball, skinny key, no 3, but also they called traveling. What would that like?
It would not be a pretty brand of basketball. It would be.
It'd probably be a tough watch.
It'd be
You're
ugly.
right.
It'd probably it would be like a 69, like.
Wouldn't that be hilarious though? Just like, all right, one game a year.
It would be fun.
One weekend a year.
I would watch it. It would just be really bad.
We're gonna throw it back, and guess what? Guys, we're calling traveling.
Like
we're going to call traveling. There is no gather step is not a thing. It does not exist. You shall not gather step. Everybody's going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, Adam Silver be like, we're going to try this, and he'd go, that was a worse idea than our All Star Game. Even less views. Got it. All right. So yeah, no, it's true though, because Justin, we just talked about how the NBA All Star Game a couple months ago was. I don't know if it was all time, but there was that narrative that nobody really cared.
No,
so now we have 2 of them in a row. So I don't know, man. The fact that 2 of the...
I'm trying to think what would be the biggest baseball, like, if you go back... So when I was a kid, strike zone, they used to be, they called it the letters, like armpits to knees. Believe it or not, used to be the strike zone. Even in Major League Baseball. Now the strike zone is essentially the belt buckle, and even though maybe a little bit lower to the top of the knee. But like, could you imagine if they called like a strike at the letters, like right at your armpits? Like you can't hit that ball. Yeah, we're gonna
tough.
We're gonna go old timey strike zone. All right, shifting gears, we continue our countdown to kickoff college football 2024 as we go on campus next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, we are 44 days, count them, 44 days from college football kicking off in 2024. Also, we are 1 week away from going to Big Ten Media Day. We will be broadcasting live from Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, Indiana, and Big Ten Media Day on Thursday of next week. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. And we continue our countdown to kickoff with our on-campus segment, Top 25, according to ESPN, college football stadiums we debate and discuss. Right now, let's go on campus. All right, this is a great debate that we have in college football all the time, right? What is the best college football stadium? First off, let's go through some parameters. What makes a great college football stadium? Is it tradition and history? Is it atmosphere? Is it location? Is it scenery? Is it capacity? All of those things kind of factor in, right? Well, according to ESPN.com, they have their top 25. They have got Tiger Stadium at LSU as the number one stadium in all of college football. Yes, Brenden.
A quick note on this, Justin.
Quick note.
I'm looking at the same thing you are,
Mm-hmm.
and I know we'll get into the nitty-gritty. I told you when we were talking about the college football game that for my money, pound for pound, LSU is the best college football stadium in America. And then my icing on the cake is something they alluded to here. There's still a live Bengal tiger you got to walk past.
It's the best.
Oregon State had to do it, and that's
so awesome.
Shivers up their spines back in 03, 04.
Right,
man. It's a real tiger, man. Come on.
Call me crazy. Maybe it's because I grew up with a wildlife safari in my backyard. And I grew up going to elementary school where they brought in cheetahs, live cheetahs for us to take pictures with. R.I.P. Cayenne, we miss you.
Could you pet it and not have it bite you and eat you?
Yes.
That's kind of amazing. I'm not gonna lie.
They brought Cayenne the cheetah to school. Every kid that ever grew up in and around Winston, Oregon, or Looking Glass or 10 Mile, shout out, maybe even Myrtle Creek, has a picture of them with a cheetah. Every single one of us. We rode on top of an elephant, and we got our picture taken with a cheetah, and that's how we rolled. And so I would walk by that Bengal tiger, Mike the tiger, and I'd be like, that's cool. That would not intimidate me at all. But maybe that's because I had a wildlife safari in my backyard.
I don't think there's too many,
You think you intimidated like a college football player?
I don't think there's too many college football players who would be expecting to see, a wild beast. I'll say this. A majestic beast.
Probably wait just before kickoff to throw him some food too.
Again, the old quote unquote wives' tale, from what I heard when Oregon State was there in 03 or 04, one of the years that they lost LSU because of extra points missed and so on and so forth. They took them on the long way from the visitors' locker room to the tunnel and then left them in the hallway for 5 minutes as they're sitting next to the Tiger King.
Yeah, buddy.
So
Smart. I love
even all these years later, I'm like, that's still pretty intimidating, man. I'm not gonna lie.
That's why college football is so awesome.
Agreed.
Remember Iowa, the old Kinnick Stadium? They had the visitors' locker room was pink.
Yes,
because they're like, it's a pink locker room. You look at footage of and I don't know if they fixed it at Cal. At Cal, the visiting locker rooms are so small. You have to walk down a flight of stairs, and they're not big stairs. It's a single file line. Anyways,
remember those?
Tiger Stadium, number one. I agree with this one. I'm gonna get a little hot takey here. They got the Rose Bowl at number 2. Now, the Rose Bowl on January 1 is a beautiful thing. January 1, the Rose Bowl is a beautiful thing. Outside of January 1, the Rose Bowl is maybe the most overrated stadium in all of college football. Nobody goes to it. It's not. And I put tradition over modern conveniences. I don't mind being a little bit uncomfortable for the sake of some great tradition. But the Rose Bowl is the worst stadium to get in and get out of. The video board is very small. January 1 would not want to be anywhere else in the world than the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. Nowhere else in the world I'd rather be on January 1 than the Rose Bowl. 364 other days of the year, this is one of the most overrated stadiums in all of college football.
No arguments with me here.
How did they get number 2?
I don't get this. Again, the fact that in the first line they reference Keith Jackson, maybe they're just hearing as they're making this the granddaddy of them all.
I know. Like I said, January 1, it's the best.
I agree.
364 other days of the year, it is inconvenient, uncomfortable, and just doesn't hold up. So I've never been to the Big House. Oregon shall be playing at the Big House this year. They get the Big House at number 3.
You making that journey?
I am
out to Michigan
not planning on it.
Gosh.
You never know. Yeah. Things might happen.
Long time.
I didn't plan on going to Big Ten Media Day a month ago, and now here I am.
High key.
Notre Dame Stadium, number 4.
I mean, I think
the Rudy and tradition and touchdown Jesus and all that.
They say a picture's worth 1,000 words, man. You can't, like I always said forever, man. Notre Dame's got they got some good stuff, some good magic working on the other side, man. You got Jesus cheering for you on a given day.
Beaver Stadium, Penn State, of the Big Ten stadiums that now that Oregon's in the Big Ten that I do want to go to, Penn State would probably be top on the list. So I agree with that. They got Husky Stadium at 6.
I know it hurts you, Justin.
I have to grit. Hold on, let me grit my teeth real quick. Grit. It's a really nice stadium.
How much that hurt?
It sucks so bad, but it's awesome. It's awesome. I hate it so much. I hate everything about it. But when they redid it and took out the track and rebuilt, it's an awesome stadium.
That tastes like vinegar coming out your mouth.
It is. By the way, I tried the gargle with apple cider vinegar because every once in a while I get laryngitis because it's
sure.
And they're like, oh, gargle with apple cider vinegar. I did that one time, threw up. It was the worst. So yeah, vinegar coming is the worst. It's so good. It is. It's so good. I hate everything about it, but it is so good. They talk about that view on the lake. It holds up. It holds up. And when they're good, it's loud and it is raucous and it's unique with the sailgating. And God, I hate everything about it. The Horseshoe, number 7. Camp Randall, number 8. Again, a spot where I would hope to watch Oregon football one day at Camp Randall. Alabama Bryant-Denny Stadium. Neyland Stadium. I think Neyland Stadium might be outside of LSU. I think that's where I probably would want to go watch an SEC game. Clemson and Memorial Stadium, Howard's Rock. Where Army plays, Mishi Stadium, which, okay, we're for the Army. We can't be against the Army. Kyle Field, and then Autzen comes in at number 14. Kyle Bonagura wrote this, who we've had Kyle Bonagura on the show. I've never heard Autzen described like this, but he says a generic potato chip shaped design. It does kind of look like a Pringle.
It does.
It does. I'll give him that. It does kind of look like a Pringle. And then when you go to others receiving votes, hey, your Reeser Stadium received 8 votes. Way to go, Reeser. Actually, Reeser's not that bad. It's so much better than it used to be.
Oh, they did.
So much better.
I think that they must take into account maybe recent success because Oregon State's been tough to beat at Reeser the last 3 years.
There we go. There's your top 25 stadiums. Coming up next, hour number 2 of Rip City Morning, 620 Rip City Radio. It is 7 a.m. on a Thursday morning. Justin Myers with you. The Open Championship underway at Royal Troon. Justin Thomas leads the way with a 3 under 68 on day one. Afternoon flight of tee times currently getting underway over at Royal Troon. Tiger Woods even after one. Hey, atta baby Tiger. Blazers return to Summer League play tomorrow against the Charlotte Hornets. That is an 8 p.m. tip time on ESPN2 from Vegas. Caitlin Clark breaks the WNBA record of 19 assists against Dallas. She is now the fastest player to 400 points and 200 rebounds ever, besting Sue Bird. But drama, WNBA All Star Game three-point contest will not feature Caitlin Clark or Sabrina Ionescu? That seems like a big miss. You know what's not a big miss? Cam Rogers, golf analyst, going to join us in hour number 3, but hour 2 of Rip City Morning starts right now at 620 Rip City Radio. All right, coming up in 20 minutes, we have got a make or miss. Coming up in 45 minutes, stuff we saw on the internet. And like you mentioned, going to talk to Cam Rogers about the Open Championship and get his thoughts on Patrick Cantlay taking over the Ryder Cup, Tiger Woods not being Ryder Cup champ or Ryder Cup captain. So get his thoughts on some other things going on in the world of golf. We got the Blazers coming back to Summer League play. How we feeling? How are we feeling about Summer League play? I feel like cautious optimism from the Blazer hopefuls. Optimism that, I mean, let's be honest. Brenden, what, Klingen's played in 2 games? I think? 2 or 3? He's played in 3 games?
I think they played 3.
I think so too, but we should probably know this, being on Rip City Radio. And by we, I mean me. But I feel cautious optimism from the Blazer faithful.
2-1.
Hey, come on. But with Klingen, it feels like have we seen all we need to see to know that, like, hey, feel pretty good about that pick? Because you go back, the last 2 picks, like this is the thing with the last 2 picks, right? Klingen's the only guy in the last 3 years that the Blazers have drafted who has not shut down his season. 2 years before, Shaedon Sharpe did not play. He didn't play for Kentucky. He just practiced. He could have played, I think, once the school year flipped, but by that point, he had already established himself as a top 10 draft pick, and he's like, I don't know if it was his decision, I don't know if it was Calipari's decision, or if it was just a mutual, like, it's probably going to be, the risk reward just ain't there. You're a top 10 pick right now. Probably just shouldn't play. And so we didn't see him play at all. Scoot Henderson was playing in the G League, was playing G League Ignite, had that one-on-one game against Wembanyama. And then after that happened, well, Scoot shut it down too. Because again, he did all he needed to do at the G League to be able to get himself into a position to be a top 3 pick and was looking like he was going to be the number 2 overall until the Charlotte Hornets got the ping pong ball, and they were like, we can't bring in a point guard. We got LaMelo. But he shut it down as well. Klingen we've seen play for 2 years at UConn. We saw him play all the way into the Final Four, and we've now seen him win back-to-back national championships. So I think that plus the realization of where the Blazers are as an organization, the expectations on Klingen in Summer League, I think, were far lower. Or I guess, is it expectations or is it hype? Because everybody wanted to see Shaedon play because much like Austin Powers, he was a basketball international man of mystery. He was from Canada and then was played in Kansas and played in Arizona, not college, but high school, then went to Kentucky and practiced, but didn't play. And you've heard like, oh, this guy, physical, phenom, like, all right, well, let's see him play. Right? The hype train around Shaedon was so high because he was a mystery. We didn't know. And then you had Scoot Henderson, Not quite the same because we'd seen him play in the G League, but what did he play, like 16 games last year?
But he was there for 2 years.
He was there for 2 years, but I think in terms of Blazer fans' familiarity with their now pick, play like 16 games for the G League Ignite. And again, don't blame him. It's not a criticism. It's an observation. It's just like he did all he needed to do. That's what the G League Ignite is there for. It's there to, hey, come in, showcase, get your draft stock up. You got it up, got it to a place where he's never going to get it. Shut it down.
29 games in 2 years.
All right. Yeah, 29 games in 2 years. That's about 15 a year. So I think we wanted to see, a little more of Scoot Henderson because we had no frame of reference. And I think also the difference was the Damian Lillard part of all of this. Because remember, when they drafted Shaden and when they drafted Scoot, Damian Lillard was still on the team. And while it may have been false hope, there was still some hope that the Blazers might bring in a ready-made plug-and-play, even though both of them were 19, plug-and-play. And then after Dame requested his trade, remember Summer League last year, Damon requested a trade, but Brenden, he wasn't traded yet. He didn't get traded till September. And I think maybe in the back of some Blazer fans' mind, they were like, maybe Dame will watch Scoot play in Summer League and change his mind. Maybe, just maybe, this cooler heads will prevail. And it turns out, no, it was too far down the road. We were past. So I think there was some unrealistic expectations. There was maybe some unrealistic hype going in, watching. I got to see Shaden play. We got to know what he's all about. Scoot. He played 16 games last year. Maybe if we see him play, and can him and Dame coexist? Can maybe they figure out a way to get Dame back? Now it's like, I think the reality is set in for most Blazer fans that, yep, it is a full-on rebuild. The rebuild is on. Just show us that Klingon can walk and chew gum at the same time. You know what I mean?
And stay healthy.
And most importantly, stay healthy. Thank you very much. That probably should have said that one first. That's stay healthy through 3 or 4 Summer League games. Can you walk and chew gum at the same time? Can you look like a basketball player? And I feel like so far so good. Wouldn't you say? With nobody was expecting him to be Summer League MVP. Sounds like the Reed Shelton guy might be. Sounds like he's pretty good.
He's looking really good.
But
certainly not Alex Sarr so far.
But isn't that kind of what Summer League is designed for? Summer League is designed for guards to put up big points. Alex Sarr and Risa Shea and Klingon and all these 7-footers, right? There's some value in Summer League, but they're not going to be defending any of these guys. And I don't know about Risa Shea and Sarr, but the Blazers clearly did not draft Klingon for his offensive capabilities. It'd be nice if they can develop a little bit of offense there, but they drafted him as a rim protector. They drafted him as a defensive guy. And in Summer League, you're playing defense against a bunch of guys that are going to be hopeful to make the G League.
I think it's telling that, everyone said, even with the Blazers having a somewhat logjam at center right now, even with Klingon, the Blazers were horrible at defending the rim last year. Absolutely horrible.
Atrocious.
And when you have DeAndre Ayton on the team, I'm kind of 1 + 1 doesn't quite add up there. So that's another question for another day. But yeah, I mean.
But they drafted him for his defensive abilities.
Totally.
And he had 5 blocks the other day, that's cool to see. And that was against Alex Sarr. But how many of these guys that he's defending are NBA players? Do you know what I mean? Maybe a handful, maybe a couple here or there, but most of these guys are going to be G League guys. Still incredible. You have to be unbelievable to even play in the G League. Somebody pays you money to play basketball. You have to be really, really good. Whereas, if you are a guard, if you're Reed Shelton, you're yeah, I'm here to knock down shots and get buckets. And you do that, and all of a sudden, now the optimism is there. But with the tempered expectations, and I think most importantly, the realization of most Blazer fans here in Rip City is just like, all right, we know what we are now. We're a rebuilding team. What did I think the over-unders came out? I think the Blazers were at 22 and a half.
I've seen several projections that have them and the Wizards tying for who's going to be the worst team in the NBA this year. And they said the Blazers probably because the West is way still more loaded than the East. So following the tea leaves, if they trade away one more piece like we think they may, I would be shocked if this team won any more games than this last year. Maybe a few more. You never know.
21 wins this last year, right?
Yeah, and what'd you say the over-under?
I think I saw it was 22.
I'd maybe see him push 30 and everything goes right.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
But again, and here we come back to this real question. How much do they want to win? This is such a fine line now because your boy, why am I forgetting his name all of a sudden? He's going to be the number 1 overall pick.
Cooper Flagg.
Cooper Flagg. Your boy Cooper Flagg is just sitting out there.
Is.
Now, it's not Wembanyama, but it ain't Ricochet, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. He's a franchise changer. I mean,
we think. We think.
It's fair. Yes, we think.
He looks really good. Everybody starts zigging and I have to zag. I just have to.
So if he was going to Oregon and not Duke,
yeah.
And Dana's like, we got a 5-star man, best kid in college basketball. He doesn't really need to come here. Would you feel the same way?
Brenden, you nailed it. Yeah, I would feel very, very differently. If Cooper Flagg was like a crazy like Nike sneakerhead guy and was just like, you know what, it's always been my dream to go play at Oregon. I want to play and be a Nike athlete, and you might be like, Justin, Bull actually said that.
He did.
Remember Bull was like, hey, how did the Ducks get the number 1 recruit in the country? It's like, he loves Air Jordans, and he has an unlimited supply of them. That was before NIL.
Remember, shoes were a big deal for him. He really liked shoes.
Yeah,
I remember that.
So huge deal. Didn't get to play in those shoes often, and was wearing those shoes when he broke his foot. But nonetheless, if Cooper Flagg was going to Oregon, I'd probably feel very, very differently. All that being said, cautious optimism around. Hey, Kling, he's healthy. He's protecting the rim. He seems to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. Not expecting him to be knocking down shots. Don't need him to score 15 in Summer League. You can drop in about 8. All right, coming up next, we have got the Thursday edition of Make or Miss, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, coming up in 1 hour from now, we're going to talk some more golf as the Open Championship currently underway. Justin Thomas still in the lead at 3 under. Tiger Woods and company teeing off in the afternoon rounds. Oh, Rory 6 over. Tough day for old Rory at Royal Troon, but we'll talk to Cam Rogers coming up in an hour from now. We've also got some stuff we saw on the internet in about, 15, 20 minutes or so. I got to figure out how to read a clock. But right now, it is time for Make or Miss. Here we go.
All right, Justin, before we open up Make or Miss, I am overtaking a few seconds of this segment to give you some updates.
Okay.
So, through my journey now, Justin, I've made my way into seeing what the college football video game does for the expanded college football playoff. So, to see that we will be able to experience what a 12-team playoff is like via a game before it even happens in real life, it's really cool, man. Having the... obviously the 4 teams get buys, but how that first game can be a host school while being in the playoff, it's very cool, I must say.
I know that I have been grumpy, gloomy Gus about 12-team playoff. I have been the bah humbug, Mr. Scrooge to everybody's Bob Cratchit with regard to this playoff because I do. I like the NFL, but I don't love the NFL the way I love college football. And I think the reason is I talk about it all the time, the tension that you feel in the regular season. Maybe I'm missing the mark on this. Maybe I'm just being too doom and gloom, but I feel like the regular season in college football had a secret sauce, and the more you expand the playoff, the less the regular season is going to matter. And you look at college basketball, and there's a good example right there. Now, that being said, first round on-campus games are going to be awesome. They just are. It's like there is like college football I love, but it ain't perfect. And one of the things that college football misses is elite teams playing true road games out of conference. It's just you very rarely see it. Even when Oregon went and got their teeth kicked in a couple years ago against Georgia, it was in Atlanta, not Athens. Most of these teams now will go to a neutral site game. It's a chance for both teams to make money. You sponsor it, you put more fans in there, everything else. But you really don't get a lot of, like the fact that Texas went to Alabama and vice versa the year before. Like those are kind of rare anymore. And that this 12-team playoff, plus, we talked about this yesterday, Brenden, with recruiting. About weather and selling the sunshine and everything else.
That's how I do it.
I can't wait until like Ole Miss has to play at Penn State round 1 in November or December. That's going to be so awesome. It's going to be awesome.
Yes, it will be. A couple of the more, so you'll be happy to know, Justin, Oregon in this simulation is the number 2 team. Got to buy the first round of the playoff.
All right, there we go.
Now, here's the sad
Even though I would like to... Okay, so this is the other part of it where I'm torn now. I would love for Oregon to be a top 4 team and to get a bye because that's that much closer to a national championship that all Oregon fans have been striving for the past 30 years. But...
You don't get a home game at Autzen.
I really want a home playoff game at Autzen. It would be pretty awesome, too. I'll take the bye, though. I want the bye.
So
championships are better. Yeah. Flags fly forever.
Yeah, and it was really cool just to see how they do it because, Justin... We talked about the realist, and then we'll get into make or miss here in a moment, but just the realisticness of the game. I finished my first season with Oregon State. I had mentioned to you yesterday that the only had one ranked win, and it was over Oregon. You had to go 12-0 to make the playoff, even with a win over Oregon. Like, if I did not go...
Yeah. Well, for Oregon State, you have to.
So, like,
100%.
that in my head is still like, dang, they made that realistic to where it's like, if you're not in one of those conferences, but long story short, Justin... Oregon State hosted Michigan at Reser Stadium, first round of the playoff. It's really cool how they do all that, and I'm kind of excited for those on-campus games. That's going to be a really unique aspect of this dealio. But
I begrudgingly will admit that those are going to be awesome. They are. Now, is it going to be more awesome than like big time top 5, top 10 regular season games? No, but it's still going to be awesome. It is.
Revenge game on my list now. The Beavers are matched up against Miami in the next round, so got to go take out a former running
taking
back.
on Damian Martinez and Mario Cristobal.
That's what I mean, man. But no, definitely intriguing, and I just continue to be amazed at the little. I've carved out a couple hours each afternoon, but I'm just amazed at the little details that continue to surprise me. And yet, Justin.
By the way, there's people on Twitter that are just like, you would think that college football, who got the early version like you would think that college football kicked off yesterday.
It's true.
Because I'm watching, it was like, Ohio State to the Final Four. I was like, that's not real. Like, it's not happening right now.
I know, right?
It's a fun game, but like you look at people are tweeting as they're playing as if college football is going on right now.
Oh, I know, right? It's nuts, and I couldn't even imagine being those people, Justin, who were like just. I know you. I
heard the defense is really hard.
Defense is hard. Kicking is hard. Yeah. So yeah, I got a little bit better at kicking, but I shanked many more yesterday. But no, I'm just curious for you, Justin. Obviously, you're not a video game guy, but knowing what you've seen with us, if you were. You would have paid the extra $20 to get it on Monday as opposed to Friday, right?
100%.
Yeah. I was like
100%.
Like, I mean, it was 25, but it was like that small window, and I'm like, I've seen people go, "Oh, I have to wait till Friday." I'm like, sounds like a you problem, man. Just saying.
This might not be the best financial advice, but like, are you gonna miss that $30? Like, are you gonna miss it?
No.
Yeah. The end of the month, you pay your bill, you reset with paid. Like,
exactly.
It's probably not the best financial advice. Best financial advice would be like, yeah, it's unnecessary. Take that $30.
Put it for gas in your car.
Put it in a savings account and save it for a rainy day. But you're not gonna miss that $30.
Like next year, I'd feel that way. Will I need the week early access next year? Probably not. This is because it had been waiting 11 years. But anywho, let's go ahead and get into it.
So you're gonna buy so they're gonna have like new version every year,
just like Madden. Yep.
So you're going to buy a new version every single year. They got you hooked.
Well, I'm embarrassed to admit to you that I bought Madden and 2K every year for...
Must not be embarrassed. That's what you do. I buy every year.
Yeah, I have ever since. I usually don't buy more than that. I'm kind of boring. Usually a sports game guy. Not a whole lot of other things. But yeah, they've now got me on that whole... $70.
That's what's going to be interesting about this whole thing.
Yeah.
Again, not a business guy, but this thing's selling like hotcakes because it's been 11 years. Next year, what's it going to be? Like, I know that people buy the new Madden every single year, and because you got, I guess, maybe updated rosters.
Yes.
You got to update the rosters.
Oh, yeah. Updated rosters are super key. And
especially how do they do that with the transfer portal? I guess in the summer, most of the rosters are pretty much set.
Yeah, so there's a...
But yeah, with college football, yeah, you got to have the roster set with portal moves.
Yeah, there's a
conference realignment.
Yeah,
who will be in the Big 12 next year? We may talk about that in half an hour.
Be. But no, there are a few things with that it's not perfect. I go through and the first thing I did was look at Oregon State's roster. They don't have one guy who's going to be here and coming via the summer portal. They have a couple guys who had left the team in the last month and a half who are still on the roster. So it's not perfect, but man, it's pretty darn close. But that being said, let's go ahead and get into another make or miss. Speaking of video games, Justin.
Yes.
If this were a video game, Rory and Bryson would have already rage quit.
Yeah. That's a make.
Restart the game, Justin. Restart the open. They're dying
do you do that? Do you rage quit? Not obviously not. You're in dynasty mode, but
in previous. Oh yeah.
You say reset.
Yeah. I have yet to do it because I said I didn't think it'd be wholesome to do it with the Beavers. But oh yeah, if you're asking in Madden if I've quit before that's been an L on my ledger, but all right, just restart. Totally, totally, Justin.
Yeah. So 100%. It is for. The two people on this particular program, I am a Rory McIlroy guy. Brenden is a Bryson DeChambeau guy. It looks like we're both going to have to find other people to watch on Saturday because I don't think either one of them are going to be making the cut. Rory just bogeyed 18 I think that put him at 7 over. That is 4 shots off the bottom. The bottom being John Daly, who does not play competitive PGA Tour golf. He is on the Champions Tour, and I don't even know how much he plays on the Champions Tour. But
let's get into the nuts and bolts of this, Justin.
But because John Daly won, I think it was the 95. I think he won the 95 British Open. He gets an exemption until he's 60. So he gets to play in the tournament every single year until he's 60, and he goes back and does some golf events. I'd do that too. Wouldn't you? Like, if you, like, he's going to finish dead last. John Daly is. But just like, so I get to go. I get to play in a championship event for 2 days. Kind of relive the old glory days where they take care of you. Maybe do some autograph signings or something and then bounce by Saturday. I'd do that. Not care if I finish dead last.
I'll say this. This is what's surprising to me about this result. Like, Rory is obviously from Ireland. He is a European, golfer in that respect. So Rory is shocking to me that he's playing this poorly. Bryson, he kind of has struggled with links courses in the past. His best finish at the Open was 9th a couple years ago, but he's had some real ugly ones at the Open too. So I just wonder if this is a simple, like, Justin's theory, Occam's razor. Is it simply the weather? And maybe Bryson doesn't play well at courses, and for Rory, maybe just still maybe that U.S. Open in his head a little bit?
I think
the weather just that horrible, which it kind of is.
Maybe even more than that is you get into a major championship. It's win or nothing at a major championship, right? Those two guys, they've already got major championships, so you're not playing for top 5. You're not playing for top 10. You're not playing for a paycheck. Bryson's got a guaranteed paycheck because he's a live guy, and Rory's made plenty of money as well. So now, once you're not playing for a paycheck, I think you mentioned it, like, neither one of them hit all that great of a shots in the front 9. So what you do is you take risks and you try to get back in by any means necessary. Whereas, like, if you're a middle-of-the-pack golfer just trying to make the cut, you maybe go, like, let's get conservative here. Let's find some pars out on this course. Let's just get to the weekend. Where they're like, we need to take some risk here. And all of a sudden, you take some risks. They don't pay off. You get into a pot bunker, and you get a couple double bogeys. And just, that's what's so nuts about golf. Like, imagine, and I guess maybe Steph Curry's had one of these days, but just imagine Steph Curry is just like, even on his worst day, he's still going to get you, like, I don't know, 14 points. Could you imagine Steph Curry just like with 4 points?
I mean, there was that.
It just happens in golf. Yeah,
like, I would equate that a little bit to Steph's streak that he had for like 7 years. He had every game he made a 3.
Yeah.
And I think
for 7 years.
And I think Dame had a really long one too. Not quite that long, but like, it's since been snapped, but you're like, wait, Curry takes, 8, 9 threes in a game and he doesn't make one? Like, that is shocking for what we know. And I'm not going to lie, Justin. Again, I didn't put any money on it. But if you'd asked me yesterday, Brenden, who do you like in the Open? I would have went with Rory hands down. So,
I did put money on it. So
that's why I said it was.
And I shall not be recouping that money, but.
And again, help me out with, of course, because again, golf scoring is still something I'm kind of learning on the fly.
Gotcha.
Is there, especially as it pertains to a links course, can you have a bad day and make it back with 3 more very good, or are you just so hamstrung on day 1 with where they're at that they're cooked? Cooked. Yeah.
You can make up like 5 or 6 strokes. There's birdies to be had, right? U.S. Open, you live with par, right? And it's really hard at the U.S. Open to kind of make back up ground. Some guys have done it, but I think it's harder at the U.S. Open because there's just not a lot of birdies out there. There's birdies to be had at this course, but they're so far down. I don't know where Bryson is, but Rory's like 10 shots off the lead. And you got a whole field ahead of you. So they might be in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, you got Bryson tied for 96th and Rory tied for $122. So that's that as they say, Justin, that won't cut the mustard. And to that point, Where did that saying come from?
That's good. That's a good point. I don't know. Now Tiger, by the way, tied for 7th.
Yeah, let's talk positives, man.
Tiger's tied for 7th. Now he's through 3 holes. And his back's not going to hold up, and it's just not going to last. But you know what? For the next 30 or 40 minutes, I'm going to live in my, once again, imaginary world where I still believe Tiger can win major golf championships. He's not going to. But with his birdie on 2 and hanging in the top 7, he's given me about 45 more minutes of that, which I appreciate. Thank you, Tiger. Thank you for that. All right, what's next?
Next up on Make or Miss. Notice how it's only the big market teams complaining about the NBA's second apron.
Oh, wait, so we just can't spend all of our money and have no consequences whatsoever? Yeah, 100%. That's a make. Who was complaining about it? Phoenix?
I think Phoenix has complained. I think the Clippers were like, woe is us. And it's like, Steve Ballmer, like, I'm sorry. The Lakers, it's just like the Nuggets, these teams who have their superstars and they're like, wait, we had built super teams. Now we can't have them? That's not fair. Why don't you guys try winning 20 games for 3 years and let me know how it feels?
I'm torn on this because on one hand, I like it when owners are invested, governors are invested and spend money. I like it. I like that. Is it Ishbia in Phoenix? I like that. He's like, you know what? Let's go for it. Let's try to win. The goal here should be to win, not to make I like that. But on the other hand, there should be a path for non-big market teams to be able to get in the mix. And you're seeing it, by the way. Because I go back and look at the champions. Denver's not a big market team. They're not. The Denver market is not all that different from the Portland market. Now, Denver governorship, they're big money players, though, right? Because that's, what's his name?
That's Kroenke. That's the dude who paid for SoFi with his own money.
Yeah. So is Denver, are they a small market team? Like, are they a wolf in sheep's clothing? Hey, we're just little old Denver. Because doesn't his wife technically own Denver because of a conflict of interest? Because you can't own something else if you're in the NFL. I think there's something there. But
yes, technically it is Kroenke Sports Entertainment.
Yeah, run by his wife, because I don't believe you can own an NFL team and an NBA team. You can own NBA and NHL, but I don't believe you can. I think that's an NFL rule. If you own an NFL team, you don't get to own anything else. I think I'm right on that one. Or I'm pulling it completely out of my backside, which is been known to happen.
It was actually changed in the last 2 years, Justin.
Okay.
But up until 2020, yes, the NFL owners would not allow cross major sport ownership. But this is relatively new. So, yes, because it says right here, Stan Kroenke had to put the Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche, into a family trust to buy the Rams.
That's right.
So Justin was on it, man.
But that's changed. So now he can just own whatever he wants. But yeah, Denver, it's a small market that they're in, but they're not a small market team.
Denver, for example, Justin, they've got.
Also, by the way, is there really truly any small market NBA team? They're all owned by billionaires. They're all run by billionaires. I don't think anybody in the NBA is pinching pennies to make a profit. The NBA just signed a $70 billion deal, TV deal. So I get so frustrated when people bring up market size. And yeah, there are less desirable places to live, and I understand the appeal of LA and Miami, but the NBA just made $70-some billion in a TV deal, and a lot of that revenue is coming back to the teams. And most of these teams, if not all of these teams, are run by people whose bank accounts start with a B.
To that point, so yeah, it's just everybody complaining, and it's like, yeah, you're going to have to, there's been 4 different champions the last 4 years? There's some parity in the NBA, and I like it. So I think the second apron will constantly keep
I
that.
think it's 6, right?
6.
You've had
Raptors, Lakers,
Bucks,
Nuggets.
Or no, Warriors,
Oh, yes, Warriors.
Nuggets, Celtics.
Yeah, so
Boom.
there you go. So that I don't know. That's impressive to me.
I like the second apron, though. Like,
Me too.
I don't, and grumpy old Justin, I don't like the super teams. But much like we continue to quote Jurassic Park, life finds a way. Super teams will find a way. They just will. Somehow, some way, they will find a way. All right, coming up next, we have got stuff we saw on the internet to wrap up hour number 2, 620, Rip City Radio. All right, time to wrap up hour number 2. And it is a segment we've loosely titled Stuff We Saw on the Internet. That's right, stuff we see on the Internet all the time. And this one I'm a little late to. I think this happened on Monday. The story went wild all over the place on Tuesday. I was still on a bit of a vacation. And then yesterday we had a bunch of other stuff going on and didn't quite get to it. But Dateline... I believe this is Cherryville, North Carolina. And I've been to the great state of North Carolina. It's beautiful. Beautiful. The mountains and the oceans, and loved my time in North Carolina. I've never been to Cherryville or Bull City, but apparently on Monday night, as is going on all across the country here in the month of July and then into August, Little League teams are playing in state tournaments. State tournament winners go on to regionals. Regional winners then go on to, I believe, the Little League World Series. And Little League World Series is going to be coming up in August. But for those that don't know how this works, and I might have this wrong because it's been a while since I've actually played competitive baseball, but you play Little League on your team, right? And then your Little League creates an all-star team. That all-star team then goes on to play in a sectional and then goes on to play in district tournament. And then if you get into the district tournament, you go to a state tournament. You win the state tournament, you go to regionals. You go to the World Series, and you get to play on ESPN. So this is pretty intense stuff. And apparently, during the state tournament in North Carolina, 12-year-old kids, by the way. Brenden, have you seen the umpire coach fight in Little League?
I don't think so. Must have missed it.
There's also some other news going on over the weekend that maybe
I was pretty dialed into that.
Maybe overshadowed it. But here's the other thing that I have noticed. The biggest change since I was a kid is that the internet exists now, and I believe nearly every competitive Little League or youth baseball game is now broadcast and streamed over the internet. So like parents, if they aren't able to go, you can watch it, you can stream it. They got the score. They got a whole app that you can download. And if you are a parent of a youth baseball child, at Justin Myers 541, but I think I got that one right. Is that now everything? It's a simple, probably an iPhone, but just a simple camera right behind home plate, and there's an app you can download, and so every Little League game you can watch on your phone. You can watch online if you can't get to the game. But you know what else this behind the plate camera always picks up? Arguments between adults at Little League games. Now, Brenden, let me tell you, I grew up in a small town, and in my small town, we took baseball very, very seriously. And when you take baseball very, very seriously, sometimes the passion and the seriousness can maybe go too far. But I can honestly say, while I have seen some arguments and I have heard some things between grown adults as I have played Little League and Babe Ruth and American Legion baseball growing up in the summertime, I never saw a physical fight at one of my games. Well, in North Carolina, apparently they take it a step too far because third base coach, I believe for Cherryville, comes down the line to discuss something with an umpire. Umpire throws him out, says he uses profanity. Now, it's probably a pretty good policy. You're using profanity on the field. Now, again, I heard some stuff as a player as well that probably 12-year-olds didn't need to hear, but that's a different time. Uses profanity. Umpire throws him out of the game. Coach, I'm assuming also dad, gets fired up. They go nose to nose, chest to chest. Coach gives him a shove. Now, I've seen this a couple of times where coaches get a little bit out of control. They do the bump. You want to go nose, and even a little bit of a shove. You know what I have never seen Is an umpire then come back and use his mask as a weapon to try to knock said coach out? Have you seen the video? Yeah. So coach gives a shove. Umpire now. Brenden, I don't know how familiar you are with umpires' masks or catchers' masks. They're pretty heavy duty. You can do some damage, especially the really good ones. They're metal with, little like plastic or rubber coating around it, but it's metal. Umpires throwing haymakers with the mask. Then all heck breaks loose, and this at one point, do you think? Because I understand. Look, tempers flare. Sometimes you see red. You forget where you are. You forget your surroundings. At what point do you think it finally came back to these two grown adult men that there are? I don't know, roughly 40 12-year-olds sitting around watching this. I wonder when did that kick in?
Yeah, this is pretty out there. I did not see this video, but like you said, now that everything's just streamed, I mean, how young are these kids?
They're 12. They're 12. 12-year-old.
That's pretty insane that we got 12-year-old baseball live stream now.
Well, that's like I said. I think all of it is.
I think it's cool. I'm not going to lie. Like, how many times I've been like, hey, love you, younger brother, but I'm just going to watch on TV.
So that's what you got from this?
Yeah, totally.
Forget the umpire and coach getting into an all-out brawl. You go to, but I'd much rather watch this than have to actually go to my little brother's game. If we just set up an iPhone and I could just stream it.
I mean, some of them are fine, but sometimes you're like, just prop it up and put it on the TV.
Put it on the TV. I can keep playing college football 25.
I mean, but no.
Keep my dynasty.
No, jokes aside. Yeah, no, I agree with you, Justin. This is one of the most.
What do you think? Like the next morning, like you wake up the next morning, you're like,
nothing good.
Did I just get into a fight with an umpire?
And you went viral.
And now you're viral? Yeah, or the umpire, and again, there's an official shortage all over the country, I believe, for all sports because of doofuses like this guy, right? Because why would you want to officiate any game and be yelled at and chastised and put on the internet and everything else for what I'm assuming is $50 a game or maybe even volunteering? But all of a sudden, umpire strikes back. See what I did there? Throws the mask, absolute haymaker. But you know what? Hey, we're trying to make regionals here. This is a big deal. Trying to make a run at Williamsport. We don't got time to mess around. So that was what I saw on the internet. It's still going around, by the way. You can find it. Just Google Little League fight. Kind of hard to blame the umpire at this point. Like, dude, you shoved me. It's on. He opened the door, Your Honor. We are going to head to the break. When we come back, Cam Rogers is going to join us in hour number 3. RCM mailbag. Is there a glimmer of hope for the Beavs and the Cougs? From what I hear, dominoes might be falling. That's next. 620 Rip City Radio. It is 8 a.m. on a Thursday morning. Justin Myers with you. Justin Thomas currently leads the Open at Royal Troon, 3 under 68 earlier this morning. Right behind him at 2 under, Justin Rose. Other notables, Jordan Spieth sitting at 1 under. Xander Schauffele also at 1 under. Tony Finau, Brooks Koepka, and company, including Wyndham Clark and Scotty Scheffler, all just 3 shots back. Even they're all out on the course. Blazers return to Summer League play tomorrow against the Charlotte Hornets, 8 p.m. tip time from Vegas. That will be on ESPN2. And Caitlin Clark breaks the WNBA record of 19 assists against Dallas. She is the fastest player to 400 points and 200 rebounds ever. Is that a real stat? Besting Sue Bird. Coming up in 20 minutes, Cam Rogers, our golf analyst, is going to join us to talk some Open Championship, plus an RCM mailbag, and are the dominoes falling for the Beavs and the Cougs. Hour 3 starts right now at 620 Rip City Radio. Hey, welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. As I just told you in the update, but in case you forgot from 14 seconds ago, Cam Rogers, excited to talk to him about what's going on currently. Tough day for Bryson and for Rory. Doesn't look like they are going to be in the mix. Tiger Woods was right there. He just double bogeyed. He now sits at 2 over. But does Tiger Woods have a chance to make the cut? How big is this weather playing a factor? It is funny because we're watching this. I've got it on. Brendan's got it on. Weather looks atrocious at Royal Troon. But you know what I think is very, very funny? Because obviously it's a links course. Links courses are normally on the beach, near the beach, because links courses don't use sprinklers. They're usually built on top of sand dunes. That's why you get kind of the undulation. And then in the background at Royal Troon, there's a Ferris wheel.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. It's kind of
cool.
cool.
You see the Ferris wheel? Like
Vegas?
But no sun. It's July. Like,
here's the thing. So
how many weeks of the year does said Ferris wheel at Royal Troon operate? Because right now, I'm not a Ferris wheel guy anyways, but right now, doesn't look like a Ferris wheel type of day.
No, I went and looked just to see if it was. So it's not cold. That's the important thing. It's like 60 degrees, Justin, but it's raining and the humidity's at 96%.
Well, okay. If it's 60 degrees, rainy, and that's cold. That's cold.
Is 60 cold? I mean, 61? I mean, I don't know. I'd consider like cold. I mean, you know this, Justin. You and I.
It's enough to where like you would have to make plans.
You and I have been in Austin and Reser Stadium when it's below freezing. That's cold. Like that's cold. But I get what you mean.
60 is golf cold to me.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Golf cold.
That's fair. I get that. But yeah, no, it's like I looked at it, I'm like, it doesn't seem that cold. But I think, maybe that humidity is probably crazy if it's truly that humid there.
All right, so we're going to talk some more golf coming up with Cam Rogers. Excited to talk to him. Mentioned it. Are the dominoes falling for the Beavs and the Cougs? I know you guys, when Chad was in, I think you and Chad talked about the potential of Big 12 expansion. Big 12 expansion is a real deal. And now, according to sources on the internet, which again have never lied to me in the past, here's the scuttlebutt. Here is the rumor mill. Here is the rumblings in the college football world. Let's start with what we know. We know that Florida State and Clemson are not happy with the ACC. How could they possibly be? Big Ten teams at the highest level are making around $75 million a year. $75 million a year at the highest level. Oregon and Washington, I believe, are splitting their rate, and I think Fox is paying for a couple of that as well. SEC, I don't know if we know the number yet, but it's got to be, if not more, than the Big Ten. Same kind of TV deal. We know that the Big 12, I believe, is $31 million per team, and it's that prereq clause that they have in their TV deal that essentially says every team that comes into the conference shall also make 31. It's The pie gets bigger every time somebody comes in. It's not splitting it up, so nobody loses money if the Big 12 expands. And as Brett Yormark, who as a conference commissioner set it up that way so that knowing the Big 12 was going to continue to grab more and more teams because they're going to have to keep up with the Joneses. The ACC, I think it's around $12 million per team right now, and that's a deal that runs into the 2030s because they were the first to sign a deal thinking that long-term creates immunity, but now Florida State, Clemson, who consider themselves powerhouses, and it's understood, are now in an NIL world making, let's just say, $50 million less than the teams they are trying to compete. So they want out. They went out of the ACC because the ACC is not getting a new TV deal anytime soon. So what does that mean for Oregon State and Washington State? What did the dominoes mean? Well, there are, I think, two paths to Power 4 for Oregon State and Washington State. Path A. The Big 12 looks at the college football map and says, we need somebody on the West Coast. Currently, right now, the Big 12 does not have West Coast representation. They can't run a game at 7:30 Pacific time at night. Can't do it. And that's a valuable time slot now when you are looking at teams, when you look at the Big 10 that now has 4 West Coast teams. And you look at the ACC that has 2 West Coast teams. So now the Big 12 is essentially going to lose out on that late night window, which costs them money. So that's path A, right? Is that the Big 12 goes, all right, we need some West Coast teams. Let's bring in the Beavs and the Cougs. The other path, let's call it A part 2, is that Clemson and Florida State somehow, some way get out of the ACC. They buy their way out, or they go and they sue, and either way, legally, they get their way out. You're going to need to, if you are the Big 12, balance out your conference. You bring in 2 teams from the East Coast. You would need 2 teams from the West Coast. There's only 2 teams left in the West Coast. No offense to San Diego State, but you ain't it. And we learned that in the Pac-12 talk. There's only 2 teams left on the West Coast. So that's path A, going to the Big 12. Here's path B that I actually saw somebody who has 102,000 followers who has been on top of this conference expansion stuff from the beginning. Path B is the ACC loses Florida State, Clemson. The ACC also potentially loses Louisville, Virginia Tech, Miami, and NC State. Those are the schools that are being discussed right now. And the Big 12 gobbles up Clemson, Florida State, Louisville, Virginia Tech, Miami, NC State. Well, guess what? The ACC now needs some teams. You still have Syracuse. You still have Boston College. You still have North Carolina, Duke. You still have, by the way, Stanford, SMU, and Cal. So if you're the ACC and all of a sudden you lose, let's say, Florida State and Clemson, and maybe a couple of others trickle along, well, where would be the most beneficial place for the ACC to pick up some teams? Well, it would be the West Coast. You've already got 2 teams on the West Coast. You need more West Coast representation. You then now create an ACC footprint. While Corvallis and Pullman aren't the biggest footprints, it's still something.
It's not, San Diego State, for lack of better terms.
Exactly right. And it would give a benefit to Cal and Stanford that they would get 2 more or 1 more West Coast road trip as opposed to constantly flying across the country. Then there is Pathway 3, which is not to Power 4 conference, but it is essentially Oregon State, Washington State holding on to the Pac-12 and recreating a conference that could maybe potentially somehow, some way compete and get a team into the college football playoff. You cherry pick, and again, the Mountain West is not going to like this, but first up, if you're Washington State and Oregon State, you find a benefactor, right? You find a TV network that's willing to pony up the cash, and then you go poaching and you get Boise and you get Fresno and you get San Diego State. But you also go and you get Memphis. You get Western Michigan's been a better football team. You know what I mean? You get some MAC schools. You get some American schools. Tulane has been decent. And you create a conference where you hope that at the end of the season, the winner, the champion of this new Pac-12 that you create is the highest rated non-Power 5, and you get an automatic berth ultimately into a 12-team playoff. Brenden, I ask you as the Beaver believer on the show, what of those three paths, you recreate the Pac-12 full of other group of 5 teams, group of 6 teams, you get into the Big 12, or you get into the ACC? Which is the most intriguing of those options, if any of them exist?
Yeah, the Big 12. And I
even without, if the Big 12 without Florida State and Clemson.
Yeah, no, I'd jump at that and I'd sign the contract faster. They could rip it off the table.
Yeah.
ACC would be a fine number 2, but I don't know the long-term viability of that conference, and I have no appetite for rebuilding the Pac-12. That's just me personally.
The only reason I bring it up, and I understand it, and I wouldn't either if I was Oregon State or Washington State, the only reason I bring it up is if you can create the football version of a mid-major, right?
Sure.
Because right now there's just the haves and the have-nots in college football, and you can, if you create some kind of hybrid mid-major where you just take, like I said, Boise, Fresno, San Diego State, Memphis, Tulane. Who else has been good? I mean, I don't know. I think you want to steer clear of like Coastal Carolina and Liberty. No offense, but I think you want to steer clear of them. But you go and you find those, Western Michigans and those schools. You win that conference, you go to the playoff. You do. Now, you're not making the money, though, that you're going to make even if you go to the ACC, and you're probably going to get a fraction. I've been saying forever, I think ultimately it's going to be the Big 12. I think the Big 12 is going to look at, because here's the other thing. The scuttlebutt rumors, Big 10 and SEC have all but said, we have no interest in Florida State or Clemson. They don't. The Big Ten and their whole academic thing, I think Florida State and Clemson are both out on that. And the SEC is like, I'm sorry, we don't need you. We already run this show. So keep an eye out on some of the dominoes falling, because potentially could be some movement for the Beavs and the Cougs. I don't think they're done yet. As a matter of fact, if I had to guess, I think they're going to be in a major conference in the next 2 years. I really believe that. I also believe that Cam Rogers is going to join the show next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, we've got cool accents. We've got flowing fescue. We have got bad weather and pot bunkers, of course. Put that all together with the Claret jug on the line. We are talking about the Open Championship that is currently going on at Royal Troon. Justin Thomas with a 3 under 68 earlier today to have the lead. Plenty of notables out on the course right now. Joining us now to talk about all the action that is going on over across the pond from the Believe Network golf analyst and betting expert, Cam Rogers, back on the Big Show. Cam, good morning. Thanks for coming back on the Big Show. How we doing?
Good morning. Great to be with you guys. I love a British Open Thursday. I was up at 5 a.m. Typically it's 4 a.m. for me, so a little bit late today, but we're rocking and rolling here.
All right, so let's dive into the course itself, because we talked about it earlier on the show, Cam. The thing that I have always liked about the British Open or the Open Championship is it truly does feel like a connection to the roots of the game, right? Where you are having to get around sand dunes and fescues and pot bunkers that guys 100 years ago have had to get around. So let's talk Royal Troon. How's the setup? And we'll get into the weather in a moment and how it factors in. But just in terms of the setup of Royal Troon, what makes this one unique?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's not like St. Andrews where you can kind of spray it a little bit around the ballpark, rip driver. That's not the case here this week at Royal Troon. You got to be really precise off the tee and then really precise with your iron game. We're talking about roughly a 7,400-yard par 71. It's your classic out and in seaside links. And by that I mean the first 9 holes play in one direction, and then the second 9 run back in the opposite direction. So you have consistent wind for the first 9 in one direction, and then consistent wind typically in your face coming in the back 9, because the back 9 is really, really difficult because of that wind coming at you. This is actually Troon being the 4th most difficult course in 2016, and I expect it to be a very, very difficult track here this week. Very much smaller greens than what we had at St. Andrews. I like to compare to St. Andrews because that's the old course, the origination of golf, if you will. And so I think you're going to have a great combination of accuracy off the tee, precision with your irons, and then an ability to be creative around these greens. If you cannot scramble around Royal Troon, you're going to struggle. And just by way of random example, Bryson DeChambeau so far has yet to figure out the Open Championship, and I think that is due in part because he doesn't have the creativity required around these greens. Same can be said for Victor Hovland, for instance. But put that all together, the beauty of the Open Championship, too, is it brings in so many different golfers. Todd Hamilton won at Royal Troon in 2004. He was 500 to 1 in the betting market going into that week. So that's all you need to know.
Cam Rogers of the Believe Network joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. And, of course, you can't talk about the British Open without talking about the weather. And, kind of like we talk about with football a lot. I remember I talked to, a betting guy in Vegas about weather and football. And I think it's kind of the same in golf, Cam, which is, look, the technology has been able to deal with the rain. We have grip. We have, wicking fabrics. We have all sorts of cold, not a big deal. But the wind, still have not been able to figure out that wind, like you mentioned, both going out and going in, being on the coast. And I'm watching it right now. It looks like it is whipping pretty good. How much of a factor is the weather, especially as we've seen today there at Troon?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, if there's no wind but it's raining, these guys are going to score a lot because you have damp conditions, receptive greens, guys can fire at flagsticks, et cetera, et cetera. To your point, the wind is what makes it difficult. And when you play link-style golf, you are completely exposed to the ocean in theory, right? And so you get those volatile conditions. And this is not even the worst of it, in my estimation, for this week. I think Saturday is even going to be more of a brute, if you will, in terms of dealing with these conditions. So it's only going to get more difficult as we go. Right now, we're on pace for the highest first-round scoring average since the Open Championship back in 2013 at Muirfield, where Phil Mickelson won that year. So we're looking at a really difficult test. And by the way, back in 2016, yes, I know Phil and Henrik were running away with it, respectively, but everybody else after was really struggling for that week. I mean, they were way behind in the pack. It was just Henrik and Phil who just had majestic weeks there. So, yeah, the wind is certainly going to be a factor. And like I said, when you have those volatile conditions, it brings in those grinders like a Justin Rose who sits there at 2 under par. He's a grizzled veteran on the PGA Tour, right? So, expect some of those grinders to rise up this leaderboard. Shane Lowry 1 under par through 5. He was on my short list going into this week. So it's not like it's got to be Scotty. It's got to be Xander. It's got to be Rory. Definitely won't be Rory, right? So I think that's the fun of these crazy conditions because you can have so many different golfers in contention.
All right, so we have got Justin Thomas currently in the lead, and it's been an interesting calendar year for Justin Thomas. Missed the cut at the U.S. Open, got a top 5, though, in the Travelers, and has been kind of all over the place, Cam, with his game and his consistency, and now here he is kind of leading the Open. What did you like from JT this morning?
Yeah, most birdies or better in an open round for Justin Thomas, 2016, round 1 at Royal Troon. He had 7, same here today, and it's his lowest first-round score at the Open since 2017. Listen, this is a guy who can really control the flight of the ball. That is really critical when you are playing a link-style golf course. Can you think your way around the golf course? Can you shape your shots effectively? Justin Thomas can do that. And you're right, it's been a bit of a volatile calendar year for him, a little bit of an up and down sort of season, but we saw something really good from him last week, and I thought that was going to parlay that into a really good week here at the Open Championship. Surely a top 30 or a top 20. Nobody was really talking about him going into this week. So, really impressive start for him. Historically speaking, I would say the PGA Championship has been kinder to him than, say, the Open Championship, but he's an ultra-talented golfer. Like I said, precision iron player, kind of like Colin Morikawa. If he can find, a pretty decent putter here for this week, he'll be a factor come Sunday afternoon.
All right, Cam, let's talk about Scotty Scheffler. Let's see. Currently, I think he's 17th right now. He's right around even. I think he might have made a birdie. I'm trying to pay attention and conduct this interview. I'm not doing both very well, but let's talk about Scotty Scheffler. Other than, it's funny that we talk about how it didn't look all that great in the U.S. Open. Still made the cut. Still was in the top 50. But in terms of what we are used to him, he's been in top 10 every single week and then bounces back, wins another tournament, and just consistently over the last, again, we talk about JT's calendar year being up and down and kind of volatile. Scotty Scheffler's been maybe as consistent as anybody in the last calendar year. Looking at the way his game is set up, and I know you mentioned it kind of, some of the Americans and used to certain conditions in American golf coming over to links golf has always been an adjustment. How does Scotty's game shape up this week?
It's interesting. I was going back and forth all week long about my prognostications for Scotty. You look at his Open Championship resume. Yes, he's made all 3 cuts in his starts. A T8 back in 2021. Otherwise, T21, T23. So, really never in contention at this championship. And it's really easy, quote unquote, easy for Scotty to contend at a U.S. Open, PGA Championship, and the Masters. The Open is a different beast as compared to the other 3 majors, right? So for him, he's not only battling a really good field of golfers and a collection of guys who are coming in playing really well, he's also dealing with the volatile conditions like I talked about with the rain, wind, etc., the pop bunkers, just the different vibe, honestly, that an Open Championship brings as compared to what we see here stateside. So, listen, I was obviously fairly bullish on Scotty Scheffler going into the week. I did not pick him to win. I didn't bet him at all. There's just no value in the market right now when you're betting somebody at plus 500 to win a tournament. That's a Tiger number back in 2009. Mm-hmm. He's not quite there yet, right? So I think he'll have a fine week. It'll be interesting to see how he navigates the wind. He is a feel guy. He's not as tactical as, say, a Colin Morikawa or Bryson DeChambeau is. So, it's going to be a really interesting test to see how he sort of thinks his way around this golf course and sort of he's an artist, if you will, which is required here at this track.
All right, we've made it 10 minutes into this interview, Cam, you mentioned him for just a slight second, but we got to do it because we got to talk about Tiger. And
here we go. Yep.
First off, let's go into the press conference from a couple of days ago, which again I loved. Taking a couple of shots of like, I get an exception until I'm 60, and Colin Montgomery doesn't get that exception. So Tiger's not going away anytime soon. As much as people want him to kind of ride off into the sunset, I feel like he's going to be a golf ambassador. Is going to be around for a while, and we now have to shift expectations from can he win it to now it almost seems like can he make the cut and kind of be around on the weekend. I know you tweeted out that it looks like he might be able to make the cut. He's 2 over right now and just missed a birdie putt, so he's likely going to stay at 2 over. Where are we at Tiger right now? I know you said earlier you like him to maybe make the cut. Still feel that way? And is that just kind of where our expectations are with Tiger, just in major golf, just hoping he makes a cut other than the Masters?
Yeah, of course, after I tweeted that, he had a double bogey, right? So there he is at 2 over par. By the way, that shot at Colin Montgomery was his best shot so far this calendar year because we haven't seen many good ones when he's actually playing golf. Now, with that said, the Open Championship typically caters to the older guard. Remember, Tom Watson nearly won the thing at the age of 59 back in 2008. Phil, in his older years, won in 2013. So, there's an opportunity here for Tiger to plod his way around this golf course here this week, pick his spots, play conservatively. That's kind of how he vibes nowadays anyway, and then go ahead and make the cut as long as he's not making silly mistakes, especially on the back nine when it gets really, really difficult on this track. I think he looks better this week as compared to any of the other majors so far this year. He seems like he's a little bit leaner. He's able to work out his legs a little bit more now, so maybe that's part of the reason. And, going into this week, if you really wanted to drill down on the data, Tiger's off-the-tee game was actually pretty good at the Masters and the other two majors, too. So, for him, it's just figuring out the iron game. So far, it's decent. He's been pretty good on approach to this point. It's the short game that's really concerning me. So if he can figure out the scrambling game here the rest of the way today and then tomorrow, and I like that he is, moving fairly well today, then he should make the weekend. Now, to your point, it's a ceremonial week for him, right? I don't think he's going to win a tournament anytime soon, perhaps never on the PGA Tour. But for him to make the weekend, I think it's great for ratings, great for us as fans, and who knows, maybe a top 25 finish is in the cards.
Well, and the other thing, I understand that we have a level of expectation for Tiger Woods, and I am one of those, just like you. I am a Tiger super fan, but especially in this tournament. Look, John Daly plays this tournament every single year. Nobody complains that John Daly comes in and misses the cut. Right. Ernie Els, what did Ernie shoot today? He's 8 over right now, just through 13. Ernie Els comes back and plays all the time. To me, I don't understand, Cam, the idea when some of these guys are like, well, he's not going to be in contention. Okay, well, he gets that exception, and he gets to come and be an ambassador of golf. We love watching Jack tee off at the Masters every single year. I know he doesn't play anymore, but we love watching him tee off. I don't understand. Is that just because we put Tiger at just such a crazy mythical level that as fans, we can't handle him not being in contention?
Well, here's the deal. He still moves the needle in the game, and I'll be honest, the game is a little bit fractured right now. Ratings have been down so far this calendar year. That's not a good sign, and I think that's due in part to this dichotomy that we have between the PGA Tour enterprises and PIF, where the negotiations are still going on with the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia to figure out how we can get this PGA Tour Live merger to happen. Doesn't seem like it's going to happen here in 2024, maybe in 2025. So you got that going on, right? And by the way, Todd Hamilton, who won back in 2004, is playing this week, and he's played twice on the Champions Tour, and he's 11 over par. So, if Colin's logic is Tiger is just wasting his time or something, I don't think that's the right argument. The right argument, and I've been saying this publicly often, is he should hang it up for the sake of his body long term. Does he still want to do the mundane things in life comfortably? And if you're playing major championship golf, it's going to set you back a little bit, right? So I'm worried about his health more so than him being in contention or taking up somebody's spot or whatever. He's Tiger Woods. He can do whatever he wants, but I am a little bit concerned about his long-term health the more that he plays these majors, because hacking it out of that thick, luscious rough, it wears on you when you have a bad back and a bad leg.
Cam Rogers from the Believe Network joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, let's get back into some of the guys in contention, because it is a fun field as we're sitting here right now. JT's sitting there in the lead at 3 under. I'll throw out a couple of names. Who are you get excited about right now? Brooks, who is 1 under through 6. Xander Schauffele also in that group. He's also 1 under. Tony Finau shot a 71 even today. When you think about those 3 Americans, and you throw in Jordan Spieth, we haven't talked about Jordan as well. Of those 4 guys, who should we be keeping an eye on? Because as we know, in the not just the golf world but the betting world, right? The numbers are always fluid. Cam, who do you like of those 4 guys, kind of from a betting perspective and just from a contention perspective?
I think the value is there right now to go ahead and bet on my pick to win going into this week, who was Tony Finau. I picked Tony. I think he was the guy that really fit the bill for me here this week. He was 18th in his debut Open appearance right here at Royal Troon back in 2016. He's number 1 in this field in windy conditions, so when other guys are faltering, he tends to thrive. And he's also 5th in strokes gained per round on link-style courses. He was T3 at Pinehurst. The ball striking is fantastic. We know his power. He probably doesn't really need it that much this week at Troon, but always good to have in the back pocket. So I like Tony Finau a lot. I'm going to stick with him as my pick here halfway through round 1. But also keep in mind, Brooks is Brooksing right now at a major championship, 2 under now through 7. So keep an eye on him. Xander is as consistent as they come. I don't think he's got another win in terms of majors in his bag here this week. That would be pretty crazy if he were to accomplish that. But yeah, I would keep an eye on Tony for sure, but looks like Brooks is making a charge right now.
Brooks just hit a shot out of a pop bunker that would have taken me a week and a half to get out of. And he put it to about 1.5 feet. But you're right, he is absolutely Brooksing. One last thing before we let you go, Cam. I know we're talking British Open, but the other news a week ago, Keegan Bradley gets named Ryder Cup captain. I know it was a very big deal in full swing on Netflix about the Keegan Bradley, the snub from the Ryder Cup team. And then is this a makeup? And also, I know that Tiger was kind of the talk of maybe being the Ryder Cup captain in 2025, coming back to the United States. He said, too busy, too many other things going on, couldn't give it his full attention. Are we ever going to get the Tiger captaincy in the Ryder Cup?
I think we could at some point. I think the timing is just not right now because Tiger's so involved in these negotiations. I think he wants to see this through. Talking about this PGA Tour, LIV Golf merger here, there's a lot that goes into these conversations. I'm hearing these meetings are as long as like 8 hours, like a full work day. And on top of Tiger practicing and prepping for these majors and blah, 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 he just thought he wasn't able to devote the time required to be a really effective captain for the Ryder Cup. Now, of course, Tiger will be an advisor to Keegan Bradley. I find the selection interesting. When I first saw it, I was like, And it could be a bit of a makeup because Keegan was snubbed 100% for that Ryder Cup most recent circuit. So, yeah, I think Tiger eventually will be a captain. I feel like that's something he wants to do. But right now, the key for him is to see this merger through, get it done, and then bring all the best players in the world together yet again.
You can follow Cam on social media, on X or Twitter, at Cam Rogers Live. You can follow him on at the Believe Network as well. Hey, Cam, thanks so much. This was fantastic stuff. Enjoy the rest of the Open Championship. We'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
Great to catch up with you guys. Enjoy the week.
There you go. Cam Rogers of the Believe Network. All right. I shift my fandom from Rory to Brooks. Come on.
Tony Finau's an interesting name. I remember him from Full Swing first season.
Top 10 Tony, baby.
Yeah.
Doesn't win a lot of tournaments. A lot of top 10s.
Yeah.
Top 10 Tony, though. I'm all in on Brooks now. Let's go. I'm shifting my fandom, and we're going from Rory, because he's going to be gone by tomorrow, and shifting it to Brooks. Let's go. All right. We wrap up the show with the RCM mailbag next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, let's wrap up the big show. We do that the same way each and every day with the RCM mailbag. Random questions, any subject, any topic. Nothing is off limits. There's no way Tiger's making the cut. It's kind of falling apart, Brenden. I was hoping for 30 extra minutes. He gave me about 20, but I'll take it. So, with that being said, it is time to stop with the British Open or Open Championship updates, and let's get to the RCM mailbag. Here we go.
Yeah, I'll say this too, Justin. After we had, there's only one thing that's in on like the front of my mind as I'm watching the Open this morning, is when for a good solid day, about a month ago, you and I are like, is Bryson the most consistent player in golf right now?
Yeah.
So as I sit here and I'm like, yeah, so about that.
Nah, it turns out it's still Scotty Scheffler. Scotty Scheffler's the most consistent player in golf. It turns out it's still him. Now, again, this is one thing. It's just one. It's one event. But like Cam was just saying last, like Bryson has not yet figured out not only the Open Championship but Troon especially, and it just doesn't fit his game. And it makes sense. His game is all about technology. And it's like you got to be able to you got to be able to scramble and grind and improvise. And when you get thrown off your game, you can't completely fall apart. And it looks like that's what happened. Either way.
Yeah, and not to mention just, I'm trying to see, let's want to make sure so I need to check out the Royal Troon, Justin. But considering the old course has been there 250 years before the United States was even a country, yeah, like that, it would make some sense that a course built that long ago isn't advantageous to technology golfers. Just putting two and two together there.
I wouldn't want to watch golf like this every week, but once a year, it's kind of fun, where it's just like, did you guys have a lawnmower? Like, no? All right. So
yeah, I'm curious, Justin, if you can even come close. So I said the old course 1500s. If you could guess what century Royal Troon was built.
1700s. So
up higher than that.
So the 19th century.
Yes.
So 1864.
1878. Not bad. I said if it was that game you always played, whoever's closest to the number gets the prize. Justin would have totally won that prize. But yeah, that's it puts a whole new perspective on years when you're like, oh yeah, that golf, the old course been there for 600 years. Like, no biggie, right?
It is nuts.
But let's go ahead and open up the mailbag. True intent, my selfish person has to start here, Justin. To catch up on House of Dragon yesterday?
No, did not.
Okay.
Yesterday
we
was...
table that for another day.
This is the weird thing when you... And maybe it's just... I don't know if it's just a me thing or if it's just a when you get older thing. But like, coming back from vacation is like kind of work.
It's hard.
Not like coming to actual work, but like...
I know what you mean.
Then there's like... You come back from vacation, it's like, haven't been to the grocery store. Got to do that. Lawn needs to be mowed. Got to do that. I used to, when I was a kid, just like throw my suitcase down and live off my suitcase for about a week. That's not allowed anymore. I have a wife and a house. So then you got to do laundry. And so finally, by the end of last night, I was like, watch The Bear? So watch The Bear.
Almost done with it?
No. I'm going once a week with The Bear.
I said I'll have to check in with you.
It was the one with John Cena. It's the one I just watched.
Oh yeah,
floor buffing.
That's a good one. But yeah, no, I'm having to remember.
It wasn't the best. The one before was very good with the pouring over, which I thought was hilarious. I could laugh at that joke all day. But yes,
I think
was not in a mental state, and also I was still on Hawaii time, so a little tired, and it just wasn't mentally there for House of Dragon.
I think there's a, it's, I think my favorite episode is either number 6 or number 7. So you've got...
I will keep that in mind.
Yeah, so you've got, it's called Ice Chips. I don't know if that's the newest one, but there may be a guest star from season 2 who comes back. So, that'll be interesting to discuss there. But let's go ahead and get into the real mailbag since Justin hasn't caught up on House of Dragon yet. But maybe tomorrow. We'll see.
We'll see. No promises.
You'll have 2 to watch then at that point. Let's see. Let's get into... got this. Justin, what's one food that you would never share with anybody?
That's a very good question. So, ice cream cone.
Wouldn't even share it with your significant other?
That I get an exception.
Okay.
It's not in the marriage vows, but it's pretty much in every marital understanding that your food is now her food. But like, if you and I were like hanging out and I had some French fries and you're like, can I grab some fries? Like, have at it.
Yeah, sure.
Have some fries. If I've got an ice cream cone, that's my ice cream cone.
You've been licking it and everything.
It's my ice cream. Even if you had a spoon, it was like, hey, can I just get a little hit? I'm like, no, this is my ice cream cone. Go get your own.
Yeah.
I would say an ice cream cone would be the one.
Yeah, I fought.
Sandwich would be another one. Just because, I attack a sandwich with precision and with strategy because I want the final bite of a sandwich to be like a perfect, beautiful bite. I don't know if I could share sandwich with anyone. If you cut it in half and you're like, hey, I'm dying here, have my sandwich. But like, I still think ice cream cone is the one.
I mean, you should have seen. I had family members. I was about ready to fight those who wanted to take a slice of my elephant ear that I brought back from a couple weeks ago. I'm like, nah, this is mine.
Especially when people don't like. You had your opportunity to get your elephant ear. You decided to decline, and then once you saw how good my elephant ear is, then now you want a little bit. Like, no. I'm with you on that one because again, elephant ear is tough because you got to tear it. Right? And sometimes, like the tear, it gets a little too big, and I agree with you. Again, like I said, wife gets an exception every time, but this is my elephant ear.
No, like that was something like, I don't know, dessert, some kind of that way. Like, for instance, yesterday, like my brother's like, can I have one of your Twizzlers? I have a pack of Twizzlers in my room, and I'm like,
yeah, have a Twizzler.
I gave him one, but I was like, those are mine. Those are mine. Like, I'm
sensing a theme here.
I'm real curious about I'm real, like generally sharing is caring, Justin. But there's a few things you got to keep for yourself.
Also, wait a minute. We don't even have enough time. Twizzlers?
You don't like Twizzlers?
No.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Why don't you get some Red Vines?
We do have Red Vines too.
You have Red Vines and you chose Twizzlers.
Yes.
Oh my.
The the Twizzlers package was open, so yes.
I don't even have enough time to discuss and debate that. All right, that's going to do it for the big show.
Tomorrow.
Thanks to Cam Rogers, thanks to super producer Brenden, and thanks to all of you. Have a terrific Thursday. We got a Fancy Coffee Friday coming tomorrow morning on 620 Rip City Radio.